Welcome to Cleveland, Jennifer. By the way, I bet you didn't know this, but this is the only place on the planet you can have a winter weather advisory at 9 o'clock this morning, 67 degrees this afternoon, 67 degrees tomorrow, snow on Friday. Come on down. I never understood why my son wore shorts and a parka. Now I know. Welcome to the Electro Expo. I am Bob Doherty with Wolf Brothers Supply and Electric League Board of Director. Thank you for being here, and we hope you are enjoying the event. Today's presentation is Electric Vehicle, Market Expansion and Business Development Opportunities. This class is registered for the following continuing education, and attendees will receive 1 credit hour for OCILB 3700179 Business. Very important, so please take note. You must input all professional industry license numbers in the registration system to receive your course certificates. If you have not done this, please log back into the registration system and input your license numbers. After April 4th, you may log into the registration system and print certificates from the courses you attended. Any questions? Please visit the registration desk. Today, I am happy to introduce our presenter. As Director of Business Development for the Southeastern Michigan Labor Management Cooperation Committee for the last 12 years, she was tasked with the business development across traditional and new market sectors,
Sure.
on behalf of the National Electrical Contractors Association of Southeast Michigan and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 58. In 2021, she expanded her business development and outreach work to also include Cleveland and Central Ohio. Our presenter serves as National Co-Chair for the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, EVITP, a coalition of automakers, utilities, changing stations manufacturers, thank you, and other stakeholders that delivers EVSC installation training and certification throughout the U.S. and Canada for residential, commercial, public, and fleet markets. She also serves as Director of Workforce Development and Outreach for a coalition of union construction employers and union trades organizations in Southeast Michigan called MUST, Construction Careers, Management and Union Serving Together. And Michigan Helmets to Hard Hats. You know Martin Helms? Martin Helms. In this role, she works with educators, career placement professionals, students, parents, and veterans to elevate connectivity with trades, apprenticeships, and construction careers, and with companies seeking to develop stronger skilled trades talent pipelines. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Jennifer Mefford.
Bob, appreciate it. It's great to be here with all of you today. I'm going to cozy right up here as I know we're going to tape this session today. What a delightful group. This is great, right? Great full session. I'm so excited. So I know that was a lot of an intro and a lot of acronyms, right? Love me some acronyms. Maybe we'll make up some more here while we're here today. This course specifically is really designed to help you navigate kind of this quickly changing and emerging and growing electric vehicle market, specifically for electrical contractors to go after the work. So it isn't so much about me selling you on the benefits of electric vehicles and how it's going to change the planet, although I think there's merit to that. It's about the green, meaning the money and the business opportunity that you have as this market expands. So you've already learned a whole bunch about me. I am a business development professional, and I work with lots of different groups, but primarily electrical contractors and electricians. My role in that is really straight up sales. It's connecting those folks with business opportunities in new markets that include electric vehicles, and we'll talk about that today, as well as solar and energy storage. We'll talk about how some of those markets connect together as well. My work has taken me certainly throughout the Midwest, but across the country. So I'll share with you some of the things I'm seeing on the national footprint, and also talk about some of the things happening in Canada, okay? I love interaction from the audience, so I'm going to walk through some of these slides, but if you have questions as we go, just pop up your hand and let's chat, and we'll share some conversation. So EVITP is a training program, but what it really started out as was a collaboration of all these folks that you're seeing on the screen: automakers, utility companies, EVSE manufacturers, electrical contractors, safety professionals, about 10, almost 11 years ago. And it was in really preparation for the launch of, at that time, the Chevy Volt. Is anybody a Volt owner? No? Okay. So my home base is in Detroit, and General Motors' home base is also in Detroit. So at that time, their engineering team we had a relationship with, and they just said, hey, we're coming out with this awesome vehicle. It's going to be kind of this relaunch of the entire electric vehicle industry. And we're just starting to figure out what that charging infrastructure needs to look like. Do you think you can help us with it? And I said, yeah, of course we can. Of course we can talk about that. So really the very best thing I think that can happen is when a market is new or relaunching is that you get as many people in the room to talk about what does this need to look like to make customers happy across all market sectors. Where do we really think these vehicles in this market is going? And let's collaborate and let's create what we need to support that market so it can grow quicker. So that's what we did. We collaborated at that time and really continue to with all of these folks. EVITP as a training program still sources all of its training and material from these folks, and as you know, their markets are changing really rapidly, so we keep it current and updated. Out of that convening, we created a curriculum in partnership with all of those folks, and we started training electricians specifically on charging equipment across all market sectors. And this is what our footprint looks like today. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I did want to let you know kind of how my work in the electric vehicle markets began and continues today. So we have about 5,000 EVITP certified and trained electricians across our network in the US. We have just under 1,000 in Canada. And we specifically deliver training to all the different facets of the market. So everything from residential, level 2, DC fast charging, and even induction charging, solar integration. So it's a pretty comprehensive course, and that really mirrors what's happening in the market. We're starting to have a lot more conversations right now with our collaborators, all those companies, about storage. Energy storage is going to play a key role, certainly in some of the fleet configurations for EV, so we're starting to incorporate those trainings into our materials as well. But let's talk about electric vehicles and where the market is today and kind of where it's growing. So I got started in EV about 10 years ago with the launch of the Volt, and I thought, oh my gosh, this market is going to change overnight. We're all going to be driving electric vehicles in the next couple of years, and then kind of not a whole lot happened, right? Not a whole lot happened. So that Volt is a great car. Definitely, I think, put on the radar everything that segment of the auto industry could be. But we didn't get a lot of density, right, in that vehicle. So what I'm seeing today that I think is different, you're looking at just some projections of where this market's going to grow between now and 2030. There are numbers that are higher than this. There are numbers that are lower than this. You know, everybody's trying to put a pin in it, right, and figure out where this market's headed. I think all of it's possible. I have a unique perspective sitting in Detroit, Motor City. You know, like this market, like this region, we do a lot of manufacturing and a lot of work with automakers. In Detroit, we also do a ton of design. So we always know in our market that when the big three are moving design and then manufacturing, they're going to be making whatever they're going to make for a while. So design came out, really shifted into EVs, and that's kind of what you're seeing now with all these product launches and the pledges, if you will, from companies like Ford and General Motors and many, many others, that they're going to electrify a significant portion of their fleet in the next couple of years. We recently completed also the plant conversions of Factory Zero, which was actually a shuttered ICE vehicle plant in Hamtramck, Michigan, to General Motors Factory Zero to manufacture electric vehicles. Ford also just completed another one. There are many others that are being announced. I think there are 13 different EV exclusive plants kind of in process in the country today. So automotive's making a huge play for this space. Once manufacturing moves, the market moves that way. So whether you think EV is going to be the greatest thing in the world, if you think it's going to be 5% of total sales or 10% or 20% or 45%, sure, we can all be right. right? We do know they're going to make high densities of cars, which means they're going to sell them, and they're all going to need to be supported by charging equipment. And I think it's also a really unique automotive industry thing where that charging equipment comes with trained electricians, right, that are in that supply chain, and trained electrical contractors. That infrastructure needs to go into the ground safely, efficiently, and at the highest level of service for all the customers. Whether it's you or me buying our own personal vehicle, something that we're putting into our business, something we're putting into a public space or a municipality, it all needs to be done great. Why is that so important? Because it's all new, right? And every little hiccup in a new market that happens, every little I'm not super delighted and happy, hurts the whole thing. So you all play a really critical and really key role in the expansion of this industry in a way that we really haven't outside of manufacturing and all the work that we do to support automotives in a long time. So it's a pretty cool and exciting time. So these are just some estimates on where we think electric vehicle sales are going to go between now and 2023. EVs are a very small percentage of total automotive sales today. Some, again, folks are looking at numbers going up as high as 30%. I've seen numbers as high as 45%. I think if all things go right and well as planned, right, maybe that could happen, but we'll see. The market needs to kind of continue to evolve and grow. Another kind of share market forecast for you. This is what I was just referencing. Some good places online to just kind of look at information. These graphs change all the time. I think that people are very bullish on where this market is going and how many vehicles will be sold. But I think we're also in a little bit of a pinch point where we need enough charging infrastructure to really kind of push that forward, to hit those higher numbers. Because it does play an absolutely critical role in everyone's enthusiasm, everyone's comfort level, and the expansion of the market. So I know, being from the Motor City, I love pictures of hot, sexy cars, and here they are. But you like me, and anywhere you look, in media, online, there are all these rollouts coming of electric vehicles in all different classes. What I personally love as a consumer, but also as a strong advocate of the EV market, is all the different types of vehicles that are coming out. U.S. consumers they like what they like, right? We like what we like. We want what we want. And that's a good thing. If we're a truck person, we're probably going to stay a truck person. If we're an SUV person, we'll probably stay in that space. If we're a mid-sized car person, we'll probably stay in that space. Sometimes life, changes in life along the way will change the type of vehicle you have, but we kind of like what we like. So to try to take a U.S. consumer market into itty-bitty cars, right, to make a complete behavioral shift is a really tough challenge. So what encourages me is that no matter what product line, what brand you're talking about, there's a product, an electrified version of that product for you, either out right now or coming along. So right now there are about 37 different electric vehicles that are available. There's many more, dozens coming between now and 2023. We'll continue to see that, different classes. Pretty much whatever you're driving now, there'll be an electrified version in that space for you to pick from. So again, what does that speak to? Market diversification means strength. It means more people will look at this as a viable choice for them because there's a vehicle that they like to drive already, and now it just runs on batteries and electricity, right? So here's some other things coming also, and we're starting to see lots of conversation around fleet vehicles. Electrified vehicles are really, really well suited for this market segment. Fleet vehicles typically are on a fixed route. That helps a lot, right? There's predictability there. There's usually a centralized location that those vehicles come back and come home to. So that definitely speaks a lot about how they fit within the EV space. So delivery vehicles certainly work for this. Postal vehicles, waste, garbage trucks, buses, all of that. We have contractors working in a lot of markets right now on buses, either mass transit systems that are electrified or also school buses. So those are some conversations, and many of you should, you have those relationships. You work within those districts doing other construction work. This is a conversation really to be having and planning with those districts that you have customers in and those municipalities about what does EV charging infrastructure look like for you, and how can you as a subject matter expert, as an electrical professional, be a difference maker for them, because those conversations are happening now. The other thing that's really happening is that there's a lot of federal dollars that are being released and allocated back down into the states and into the municipalities. Some of those will start flowing as early as May of this year. We'll talk more about that in this session today, in some places that you might want to start having those conversations. As I talk to electrical contractors and electricians around the country, I always want to tell them, because we're so good at what we do, right? For us, it's just another technology, right? It's a technology we understand. We have so much training and expertise. We might need a little bit of training. We might need to learn some new things, but we know an awful lot about what we do. Make sure your customers know you're in this space. Make sure that they know this is something that you can do. Make sure they know you have access to great resources on vehicle charging in any market, that you have accesses with solar, with energy storage. You have great networks in your community that can help you be great advocates to your customers. There's no reason that anybody's customer in this room should be sitting there going, we're looking at electrification of some of our fleet, or we're looking at electrification of our busing system, and we don't know who to talk to. We've no idea who to talk to. They need to be talking to you, and I'm here to help you. I advocate and I'm a resource all the time, but a lot of those partners out on that trade show floor are heavy into this space and are amazing resources for you also to get started, so you feel confident and comfortable talking about it. Here's another bus, and this is in Lake Tran, so this is very close to this area that was completed. So they're adding some electrification to fleet. I'm really seeing this across the country. There will be incentive monies, dollars to actually purchase vehicles for municipalities in mass transit. Some have come down already, some will be coming down. So if you have relationships with those departments of transportation, could be municipal planning, have those conversations now. A little bit of a slide back to Factory Zero. This is where, what I'm really seeing happening. I'm sure you're seeing that happening here as well. Battery manufacturing facilities will continue to grow as a market segment, which also offers opportunities for you in building those facilities and maintaining them, and of course charging infrastructure. We had the announcement in the Columbus area a couple months ago, I'm sure you're all aware, of Intel doing the semi-chip conductor plant. That's going to be a massive development. But what I'm also seeing from my seat and as I travel around the country is this very strong push to get all the different supply chain components in the United States, to make sure that we own the technology, that we own the supply chain. We do not want to live through what we've been living through these last couple of years. Yes, the pandemic had an effect, of course it did, but we really want to be in control of this electric destiny that we know everyone's investing billions of dollars in. So I think we're going to see no shortage of that continuing. So let's talk a little bit about what's being said about charging stations. The Biden administration targeted that half of new car sales in the U.S. in 10 years be electric. A target is a lofty goal, right? Do I think it'll be that? I don't know. But I think it's going to grow exponentially from where we are today. All of it is opportunity for you, and really in so many ways. Of course, you have to have the vehicles and the product, but what is going to get us to that number or closer to that number is the charging infrastructure. It's reliability and it's access to charging infrastructure. So that's all going to have to go in to get that market growing in that direction. And that's great opportunities for work for all of you. To reach the goal of 10% of the U.S., or I'm sorry, 50% of the U.S. sales in 10 years, at least 1 million fast chargers, DC fast chargers, will have to go in. The current Infrastructure Act is calling for, it's actually released funding for 500,000 of those DC fast chargers. Think about that as a bit of more of a gas station, for your EV, something that you would probably find in a public space that will charge your vehicle in a much quicker period of time, anywhere, from around half an hour to 20 minutes. People say to me, I'm not going to wait 20 minutes or 30 minutes. I get it. But do you remember when cell phones were this big? Like, is anybody as old as me? Like when you had the bag phone and you took the phone out, it was this big, right? Okay, I remember, yeah. Everything is advancing very quickly. So do I think those times are going to become shorter and shorter? Yes, I do. Absolutely, I do. We're already seeing that technology. We have a partner, ABB, is actually doing some really dynamic work in really, really rapid charging. And I'm super excited, super psyched actually to see that all come out, because it will really help this market grow and expand. And I think that we will be talking, a decade or so down the road about how this has all become very normalized. That now you have an electric vehicle and here's how you charge it, and they're just charging stations. That it's less of a conversation about, well, what if I get one? What's going to happen? What do I do now? So all of that is, I think, pretty exciting. I mean, I think it's pretty cool. And it's electrical, yes.
Do you see a time when individual residents will have a charging station in their house?
We're starting to see, yeah, there are now, and they're typically what we're seeing based on the data from the automakers is that while they offer a faster, when you buy a car, it comes with a cord set. You can trickle charge, which is what it's called. You can plug that cord set into your car and into the outlet on the side of your house or in your garage. It just takes a super long time, right? So the second option is a level 2, which will give you about 5 to, depends on the car, depends on the configuration, about 5 to 7 miles an hour of charge, right? Some are faster. There's new products coming out all the time to give you general numbers. And there's also DC fast charging for the home. And a lot of that is being driven by new products like the Ford F-150 Lightning and the new Chevy Silverado that are bi-directional. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a couple of slides, but what they charge, they can store the energy, they can feed it back into your home and act like a generator, which is totally cool. And they can also feed that power back into the grid. You can charge in non-peak times. You could in markets that will allow you to do that. So we're seeing all of it. Typically, consumer on super upscale products, they will get some kind of charger, typically at the point of sale, put into their home. A lot of them come into that cycle probably 3 or 4 weeks later. So you buy your electric car, you drive off the lot, you look at the app, and you see these pins around you, and you just kind of get tired of searching for charging. So you're like, I just want this in my house. And then you move into that cycle of acquiring that charging. So if you as an electrical contractor are not picking up those customers right at the point of sale, don't be discouraged. Don't be discouraged, because a lot of those customers aren't coming into that cycle of wanting you to install that charging station in their home until a little bit later. We're seeing kind of all of it. But like any really new product, you live with it a little bit and you think, I could probably make that work. I'll just plug it in, it'll charge overnight, I'll be fine. And then you live with it and you're like, I just want it to charge faster. I just want it to be faster. And that's kind of who we are, right? We want, like with your cell phone, right? You could probably charge your cell phone overnight, but if you could charge it really quick, you gotta have that. Gotta get it as fast as you can. Yes, sir.
Do you see the opportunity for gas stations and some of the major oil companies to put something like that along the side of the building where electric charging?
Absolutely.
There's a gas station every quarter mile.
Yeah.
When you have an electric vehicle, you're driving from Cleveland to Columbus.
Yeah.
And you have a 230-mile capacity at the car, let's say. And for some reason you take a side trip and you can't make it all the way down. Are there going to be charging stations, first of all, independent charging stations? Every couple of miles they're going to try and do it or whatever, and then as well as a gas station. And then obviously what the cost will be to charge the car.
Yeah. You make an excellent observation that gas stations are really everywhere, right? So there's physical infrastructure everywhere that's kind of used to dealing with this, and I think that's a great market. I'm also seeing, fast charging in corridors coming in, like in rest areas, right? So I take the turnpike to get here, and there's lots of fast chargers at the turnpike. What the fast chargers right now, if I'm going to be there for about 30 minutes as a consumer, the rest areas are great because there's something for me to do. I can go inside, I can freshen up, I can get something to eat, something to drink. So I think you'll start to see all of it, but I also think you'll start to see experiences happening because those consumers need to do something for 30 minutes. The other thing is really safety. So some of the early open network public charging, it was almost like the infrastructure, whether it was level 2 or fast charging, was kind of hidden. It was maybe behind a building, or it was in some weird location. Well, I don't want to charge there. I don't want to stop in really ever, right? So think about that as electrical contractors, though. Do we need to have cameras there? Do those units need to have cameras, or does it need to be some security component when you're talking to their customers? Yeah, for sure, if you want to use it as an amenity. From a pay structure, right now, today, there are subscription models where you're paying a fee. There are just pull up and you charge, and it's a different price. It's a little bit of the Wild West in a way. There are some that are totally free and that are an amenity, and I see that space just kind of floating around right now, and it'll settle. But I think everybody's going to try it and see. But the more people that we have in vehicles, right now there are very few, so the equipment itself isn't being used all the time. So we aren't seeing what happens in very few instances where someone pulls up to a charging station and there's a line, right? Or there aren't enough of them. That kind of thing. And then also, what are people doing and how safe are they? Are there any incidents? Are there any issues? So great question, though, and thank you for that input. So we're just looking at kind of how do we build out the country to make consumers feel that there's adequate charging infrastructure to get them from place to place. When I worked with the engineers at General Motors, they gave me the study, and I think it holds true for lots of people, maybe not people in construction, but the average consumer drives about 40 miles a day. The average person doesn't drive 300 or 500 miles a day, which is a whole battery, a fully charged car. So a lot of times I'm talking to people, they're like, well, what am I gonna do? Like, I'm gonna have to charge this thing every day. I'm like, well, if you drive a lot every day, that's the case. But I don't fill my gas tank up every day because I have used all the gas in the tank. I just use the piece of it that I used, right? And I can wait. So with EV charging, it's really about managing the gap. It's about managing the gap, the top off, if you will, on that electric battery every day. So when you think about home charging or work charging or places, you're only trying to get typically 40, let's say 80, maybe 100 miles a day. You're trying to recapture that back. Some of you drive a lot, and in construction, you can be all over the world in a day, it seems. Sometimes I cross 7 counties in and around Detroit when I'm running around. But most days I don't. And so most days I have a charging, I don't have to look for one because I'm good. I can get around. So, but consumers love to feel really confident. If I buy this happens. I can get wherever I want to go in the period of time that I want. And that's what I want. And that's where the charging infrastructure comes in. We have to have enough density and enough access that all customers, no matter what kind, feel happy, secure, comfortable, and confident. And that's where all of my electrical professionals like you come in, because we need to put it all in the ground. And many of you, who's installed charging stations already? Yeah, good, awesome. So it's growing and growing and growing and growing, and there's a tremendous amount of funding coming in, including into Ohio, for more. And I want to talk to you about that today as well. So we're going to be putting a ton of infrastructure in. It is not shocking. Most of the vehicles and most of the charging stations are in California. Not shocking. That's where the market has really rapidly grown in the last 10 years. And now we're going to see kind of the rest of the country moving out. Here are just some pictures, pretty pictures of equipment. Solar integration, yes, all of that I can definitely see coming into play. Storage, all of it. So all electrical work and all opportunity for you. I think, and I know I said it before, as you're having conversations with customers, one, they're doing a lot of this planning now, especially at the municipal, the school level, the government level, infrastructure, the folks that are in DOT, DOE in your areas are talking about this because they know this federal money is coming. So make sure they know you do it, right? Make sure they know that you have this expertise to do this. Here's something completely different, and then I'll get back to where the money is. Wireless roadway. So this is an induction roadway where the actual charging infrastructure is embedded into the road. Pretty cool. There's a couple of these in Europe, and there will be one in Detroit at the Ford headquarters, which is Michigan Central Station in Detroit. And that is where Ford is moving all of their R&D and development into this campus, Michigan Central Station. And this roadway will be about a mile long, and it's really designed to be a test track, if you will, for inductive charging. Do I think all the roadways from coast to coast are going to have induction charging? No, I do not. But I think it's pretty cool. And when we get it in the ground, if any of you are interested, you'll know where to find me when I'm done. Come on up and we'll go dig through it so you can see how we put it together. Some of the contractors that I work with will be involved in this, and we're very excited to see it all come together. The first one in the U.S., and it certainly won't be the last one, so hopefully there'll be one down here as well. This campus actually is going to be also autonomous vehicles, so there'll be little driverless cars running all over the place in about 6 square miles. Yes?
Is it built so as well?
I know, right? I hope so. I don't know enough about it, honestly, but one could only hope that it does, yes. Any other questions before I move forward? Okay, super. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the Ford F-150 and the DC fast charging, the charging at home. This is a pilot that General Motors is actually doing with PG&E right now, testing DC fast charging in the home and also incorporating storage. Charging at non-peak times, storing that power, feeding it back to the grid. You're going to be hearing more and more and more vehicles coming out where they say they're bi-directional. You all know what that means. Bi-directional means it charges the car can push the power back into the grid. It can also push the power back into your home. So I think one of the things that is very fascinating about the F-150 Lightning and the Chevy Silverado is that they're coming to market with that capability. Think about how that changes the home generator market, right? Long term. Maybe not today, but think about how it changes that decision for that homeowner to get a generator, right? The other thing that it really does, and in my home market, we have a lot of houses that don't have the capacity to add all that much more. So there's another opportunity to really upgrade that service to make sure there's enough capacity. These are not, low draw kinds of things. So we need to keep that in mind too, but there's work there as well. Does somebody interested in EV, do you think they might be predisposed to be interested in solar also, right? And storage, yeah? Market extensions for you to be having those conversations with those customers when they come in. You'll be seeing a lot more about bidirectional charging. Here's a little solar integration. I see more solar really in solar canopies around that are charging in public spaces than I am specifically seeing systems outside of California that integrate solar in the home. But that's just kind of where the market is at this moment. There's an interesting effort that Kia is doing with their roadie system that they actually will bring the batteries and the charge out to you. So let's say you don't have a charge in your car, or you're low and you can't really get anywhere, or you just want, it's kind of like AAA for your EV. I thought that was kind of fascinating. So we'll see what happens with this market. It definitely has a place in the market until that charging infrastructure goes into the ground, right? When there's charging infrastructure everywhere, this might be less of a play, but I love it. I think it's awesome, really interesting. So let's talk about how we go after some of this work. We talked about residential consumers. There are lots of networks of folks managing electrical contractors, right, that are doing this work. I've listed just a couple of them here for you. Some you're probably super familiar with, maybe others you aren't. Each market is slightly different, but Ford Pro has their kind of network, Electrify America, ChargePoint. You all have probably installed some of this equipment. Qmerit, these are places that manage kind of that process for the consumer, and behind them is a network of electrical contractors that do the work. So there's any number of these. If you're really interested in this space, I would definitely encourage you to shoot me a note. Let's talk about where you're doing work, how I can get you to connect to those networks. It is an individual process. It isn't like if I do this, then I have everything. It's a little bit of this, right? If I do this, it's all out here. There's a lot of places that you can connect, and this is just a few. Most of these companies are moving super quickly into being focused in electric vehicle charging to solar integration and storage. So we'll want to make sure that when you're chatting with them, they understand that you can do all three and that you're prepared to work in that space. Lots of entry points for EV charging. Consumers typically drive that conversation at workplace. They have up until this moment. You got a new EV, you're super excited about it, you decide to get charging at your house, then you want to talk to some folks at work about getting charging there. Why? When, outside of the pandemic, right, where everybody worked at home, our cars are typically at our workplaces for a long period of time. It's a perfect time to charge, right? There's a lot more workplace charging also, conversations just generally happening that aren't driven by the consumer, but just businesses that want to either have part of a sustainability agenda, want to offer it as an amenity to their employees, or understand that there are rebates and incentives out there and that they want to have one. So all of that is happening. I'm seeing these pop up in places like Target locations and Starbucks locations. It just depends on where. There's all retail, because you can charge, you can go shop, right? Bringing you into the store. Public, there's going to be a lot of money for public infrastructure with charging. Public access infrastructure will more than likely look like DC fast charging with a sprinkling of level 2 charging at this point. And that is just to kind of help build out these electric little gas stations, right? Electric stations around to give consumers confidence, more and more of that. The fleet market, I think, again, it's all just starting. Like, we really are at the very beginning of such an exciting time. And in the heart of that are electrical contractors and electricians. And that is awesome. And I know this is what I do for a living, but it was very exciting to me. Because it's like, wow, this is great, and it could be such a high amount of work for us. Yes.
Is there any faction of people that are fighting this trend towards electrical cars?
Sure. Yes.
Who are they?
I think there are lots of people.
Other than the gas.
How many are there in here? How many of you think it's a bunch of bunk? You're here, so I'm just, you can tell me that. You're not gonna hurt my feelings. Okay, so when I'm out and about, I will, even at my booth at the trade show, I had 2 people come up to me and say, these EVs are just gonna be like nothing, small. Like, this is ridiculous. People are not gonna stop using gas. Yeah, you might. There's a lot of consumers in the United States, for sure. And some will stay in that lane, and some will move. But just like with any new technology, if we travel back in time, people would say to me, well, why would you want to carry a phone around all day? Why wouldn't you just keep a phone at your house? Like, why would you want to watch TV on your phone? Like, we watch TV at home. Why wouldn't you just go to a movie theater? Why would you build a home theater? Why would you want to stream Netflix? Like, I don't get it. Like, why wouldn't you don't you want to go to the movie? And all of that, those markets just shift. And in the beginning, they shift quicker or slower based on investments, manufacturing, consumer interest, and reliability, frankly. U.S. consumers specifically, if they buy something and it doesn't work, no matter how passionate they are about it, their tolerance is pretty low, one and done. And that's why we have to get it right. So I think there's definitely naysayers, but there will be the vehicles. On the flip side of that, when someone goes into an electric vehicle and they drive it and they love it, the cars are gorgeous. They're fast. They have tons of power. They're super cool. So the product that's coming out isn't trying to get me or you to be excited about an inferior product or something that's less than we had before, but it's green, and so I kind of feel good about it. It's super cool. Super cool. So people who own EVs will talk to you about their EV for a long, long time. And that's good, right? They're super excited about it. It's great. And I encourage you to talk to them about their experiences. What I'm starting to see, and someone I think mentioned it over here before, is that now that we have charging infrastructure that's been in the ground for a while, when they search on their app on their phone, and they go to a charging station, some of it isn't functioning. That's a problem. We've all been in our gas vehicles riding that line on E, right? Thinking I got a gas station in 3 miles, and if I just put my foot over here, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna roll up on that thing, perfect. Okay, well, it's problematic when you drive to a charging station, but the next one's further away, right? And you're like, oh my gosh. So there's a big opportunity for you all that do service work to start these same kind of companies, right? But there's a whole service trail here of just servicing the equipment that's in the ground today, making sure that it's communicating, making sure that it's functioning, all of it. Vandalism isn't the issue. Typically it's a software glitch or something's happening, but they need preventative maintenance. You can put them in the ground, you can do preventative maintenance, you can do ongoing maintenance, you can do troubleshooting. This is good business for you as electrical contractors. Yes?
I think a bigger market for this whole thing is residential. I don't know how many electricians are mostly residential. But it's an opportunity, and can't grow arms and legs, it's an opportunity to put a charging station in someone's garage, right? You may have to upgrade the panel, which is one of the fun. You put a charging station in a garage, people can come home from work, they plug it in at night, before they go to bed. They got a full charge in the morning. So they don't have to rely so much on the independent charging stations unless trips.
Correct.
Give the encouragement that we can put a charging station in your garage. Well, I'm not getting probably EVs for maybe 6 months. That's okay, it'll be there. When you go to sell your house, you've got that charging station in your garage. Many of your neighbors have it, maybe, unless you can get around to hit any one of them. But it's an opportunity to upgrade their life for the self-charging station in their house with the idea that you're going to get that money right back by self-charging yourself. Buying it, plus when you go to resell the house, you got the value back.
So that's great. Thank you for that. So let's talk a little bit about where we're at, just the economics of an EV. Are they more expensive? Yeah. Yep, they are. Is there a rebate? Federal? Sure. Are they still more expensive? Yes. New technology, right? Will it take a little longer for that ROI, if you will, to be an apples to apples? Yes, it will. But as technology advances, as battery prices come down, we've seen this a lot, I'm sure you have, in the solar market, right? Solar panel prices have come down pretty significantly in the last 15 years, right? We're going to see the same types of things happen that will make this much more, make the kind of the money work out a little bit better. Absolutely, we will. Let's talk about where some big pots of money are coming your way, and I'm going to talk specifically about Ohio. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act was passed. It is not the Build Back Better bill. It's a other piece of it that already passed. And a lot of that is for electric vehicle infrastructure. Here's what that looks like. The first round that starts coming to markets in May of this year is $7.5 billion. That is for those 500,000 DC fast chargers and level 2 chargers that you will see be building out kind of this electric network, electrified highways, electric network. And this is just one opportunity. Within this Infrastructure and Jobs Act monies, each market, each state basically has been designated a certain amount of money in that. Ohio looks like this many million in its first year, and it's a 5-year grant, so kind of times that number by 5. This is how much money that's already been passed, that's already been allocated for EV infrastructure coming back to your state. What's happening right now at the state level that a lot of us are working on, state by state, is the states are all putting together their proposals back to the Fed to get the $20 million, saying what they're going to do with the money. So that's all in place right now. Those proposals at the state level are due August 1st. And that's really where your city planning and your state planning, your governor's office, Department of Transportation, Department of Energy, all kind of intersect. I'm sure you have the Clean Fuels Ohio folks who are excellent. You have lots of stakeholders who are coming together right now to kind of draft what that proposal will look like for Ohio. Within that, there will also be, I'm sure, some of this $20 million set aside for municipalities to put their own plans together and to apply almost for grants against that money. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. It is up to each individual state and how they deploy that, but I think I would definitely be looking for that. And that will come out through procurement a little bit more like in your normal RFP kind of process. So in the places you kind of normally look.
Today we only have a grant, but it's in the form of a rebate, maybe 30% of the dollars spent in that year placed in operation.
Yeah.
So do you know about this 20 million? Is it similar?
I would imagine you're going to see anything that has a rebate or an incentive program grow. I do not know exactly how Ohio's is coming together. I have had a couple of conversations with some folks at the state about that. They're making the sausage right now, but I would imagine anywhere that there is an opportunity that's either already funded, that is an incentive for technology or installation, you're going to see it grow. There'll either be an increase in those dollars available or percentages on the project. That would not surprise me at all. Before I get to the time is now, because the time is now, I wanted to just kind of talk to you about, this is a big pot of money. This is just one of them. There will be lots and lots of layers of money. There's a specific part of this infrastructure bill that is just for electrification of school buses. That is going to be an extremely wonderful market for you. So if you have those connections, have those conversations now. I am really fortunate that even though my day-to-day work is in business development on the ground level, connecting contractors with opportunities, with my EVITP hat, my email and my phone rings often with people at city government, municipalities, customers going, we need help. We need to look at equipment. We don't know where to begin. Can you help us? Yeah, of course we can. Within the network of all the people in here and all the people that are out on that trade show floor, we can figure it out. There is new technology coming all the time. Everything I've told you here today, I hope just grows, right? But this is where it looks right now. Like any new market, there isn't any one entry point. So I would look at what are you doing with your individual firm? What markets do you want to be in? How do you want to go after that? I'm happy to talk with any of you. I'll be here until tomorrow evening. We'll be at booth 102. Just come on over and let's have a chat, and I'll give you my best, everything we've learned so far. But I do, very confidently know this. The time is now. The time actually is now for us to go after it, especially with those federal dollars. Those dollars will be hitting the markets later this year. It's a lot of money, and many of these conversations are happening all the time. I'm in conversations all the time. One shift I will tell you from 10 years ago was arguing with owners, developers, customers, municipality. It was kind of a race to the bottom. Right? We don't want to spend any money on anybody that knows what to do. We just want you to put this thing in so we can charge something. Right? We've all had those conversations, right? Great. I'm not having those conversations now. I'm having more conversations with owners, developers, automakers about how do we find people who are really good at what they do, who know what they're doing in this space, and how can we hire them? Why? Because if anything goes wrong, they're toast. One fire, 2 fires, one public fire, right? There are still incidents. Typically, it's that the load on the home was not, it was too much for the capacity, right? They need you. The whole automotive EV market needs you. They need you to be really good at what you do, which you already are, and they need to know you're there. So this is not a market that I'm seeing is going like this. It's a market that it's like, okay, we need people to be really good because we have invested bajillions of dollars in R&D, manufacturing, we've retooled our plants, and oh my gosh, we got to get it right. Well, you can sell that all day long. You're really good at what you do. So do that. This is me. This is how to find me. I will be here with you for the next couple days at this amazing show. We're 8 minutes before 2 o'clock. I'm happy to answer any questions you have and just share with you what I know. Mm-hmm.
What kind of electric car do you have?
I am going to be getting the 2023 Chevy Blazer. I have a Chevy Blazer right now that is not electric, and I'm waiting, and I love it. And I was waiting, like I was not in the cycle of purchase at that time. I'm coming to the tail end of that lease, and that will be my first one. Great question, thank you. Pardon me? It's there. It's in their model rollout numbers.
Okay.
Yeah, it comes out in the fall of 2023. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes.
Is there any like data or anything that talks about the amount of lithium we have? Is there going to be enough to support the amount of EVs that we're going to throw in?
It's definitely a lot more conversation around that. Thank you for bringing it up. I don't personally have that data for you today, but I would be happy to look into it for you. But I think it's a very interesting part of the whole mix, isn't it? Yeah. Yes.
Just a guess on that, like, do you
Yeah.
expect the cost of precious metals like lithium and stuff to go up, down, kind of stay where it's at, or just a guesstimate as to, what you think?
Well, I think anytime there's more demand, there's definitely an effect on price, right? It's just not my expertise, guys. I'd love to give you an answer, but let's do a little digging together and see if we can't figure it out.
What's the percentage of charging that takes place at home?
Most of it.
I've heard 70%.
Yeah, most of it. I would say 70 or 80% takes place at home, and that's just because there's a lack of infrastructure really outside the home. What percentage of that has moved from that trickle charge, where it's just like a cord set and you plug it in, to fast charging? I would say it's probably about half of that. It depends on the model, like on a Tesla or a Lyric, something that's higher end. Putting a higher end charger, you're more than likely just going to get the whole thing at once. So it's going to change. It's going to change, but I think that's very normal. It's led by the home. Mm-hmm. Yep.
One more question. So do you think that some of that grant money will go to fixing some of or upgrading some of the existing infrastructure? I do a lot of work for Tesla across the IO. Right now, we're upgrading all of the Gen 2 chargers to Gen 3, but we're not seeing any government funding for that yet.
Yeah. Gosh, I sure hope so, because I think it's really critical to the market, and I think there's some discretion when those monies come down, and that's where your expertise of like, this is what we need. To me, it's also, if you're going to be installing some public infrastructure, you're going to be installing some infrastructure, like, what are the bidirectional, ramifications of that? Do we want it to be feeding into the grid? Will our policy as a state or a municipality be moving in that direction, where we could actually be doing that? So I think that's where you can elevate that conversation about like, hey, if you guys are looking at procuring more equipment, these are my recommends, because this is where the market is today, but where it's headed, right? Yeah. Yes.
When it came to the naysayer comment, has there been any reaction or any anticipated reaction from big oil to kind of slow this transition down a little bit?
I kind of hear everything you guys hear. I don't have any specifics on it, but I think there's always this kind of, it's friction, I guess, between the two parties. But I thought 10 years ago when GM came out with the Volt, I really wasn't seeing any movement in Detroit. Ford was silent, really quiet with what they were doing. A few people kind of said, yeah, it sounds nice, we might make one little car you can plug in. That's completely different. So whether or not there's resistance to that from big oil or from others or just whatever, it's moving in a whole different trajectory, and so it's going to have a space. And I just want to make sure that all of you have a space in a role in that, to make sure that it's successful and it grows quicker and safer, more safely and faster. But I think sure. Sure. Yep. There is some resistance, yes.
How about the gas tax? What have we heard about that? Something's
Yeah.
got to change.
Yeah, interesting. There are states that when vehicles came out, Michigan is one, you actually pay an extra fee to own an EV. And when you register your car, when you buy your tag. And I'd have to look around the country and tell you how it is, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it is in Ohio. But yeah, absolutely. Gas tax, tag fees. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Do you see car manufacturers getting more into the chargers?
So most of it right now, yes. Most of it right now are though through strategic alliances and partnerships. So you have the people that are making the equipment, they might put it under, like Ford is under Ford Pro. So when you go there, you'll see charging from fleets to municipal, all the way down to consumer charging. I think they have a role in it, but generally speaking, and a lot of it has to do with liability, they kind of want to have a little bit of a distance between the equipment, right, and the install. So it's kind of soft that they're connected to it, but do I think they're going to start manufacturing charging stations? I don't think so, but crazier things have happened. But they might do it in partnership with somebody. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Is there any standardization on the receptacles
Mm-hmm.
and plugs?
Yeah, so the J1772, and there's a different number, it's 11 something for the DC ones. I'm sorry, I don't have it on the top of my head. But yes, so that there is some pretty good conformity there. There are also adapters, like Tesla has its unique connector. They also have an adapter for that, so that it will work with other types of charging. But, I think the market will continue to see, I don't think there's going to be all these different charging ports because it just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, Tesla was the most unique, which is part of their brand. Yeah. Anything else? Yes.
What about scaling things up, planes, trains, semis?
I think semis for sure. We're definitely seeing also on the West Coast a lot of electrification of all the vehicles that work in the ports. So if you think about the little, whether from a high-low to all the little vehicles that run around the ports and move things around, I think there's really an endless opportunity. How quickly it gets there, I don't know, but I think any of it could definitely happen. Yeah. All right, so you know where to find me. I hope that you do. I'm also in booth 102. If I can help you navigate this world and share what I have learned across these last 10 years, I'm happy to do it. Thank you all. You've been a great group.